Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss, only on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Welcome to What Women Want Talk Radio for our show tonight, Money on Our Minds. I'm your host, Judy Goss, along with my superstar actress and producer, Kristin West. And What Women Want has been on the air for over 2 years and has hit way over 500,000 downloads during this time on LA Talk Radio's website archives, iTunes, and Google Play. I want to first thank you, our listeners, because we certainly wouldn't have a show without you. And let me tell you, with guest celebrities recently like Marcia Clark, remember her, the O.J. Simpson prosecutor, former, I should say, 5-time Olympian Jackie Edwards, actress Stacey Rose from HBO's hit show Ballers, starring The Rock, Dr. Christine Carlson, the author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and Amy Newmark, publisher of Chicken Soup for the Soul. We have been rocking it out with guests on our show and the caliber, and it's just so exciting who's coming on. And tonight is an especially fascinating show with the founder of Revenue Breakthrough, Monica Shah, coming on to reveal ways to make more money. And who doesn't want that? And Ronit Rogoszinski, certified financial planner, to tell us what to do with that money Monica shows us how to make once it's hit the bank account. Okay, talking about practical ways of using our money this evening. Have you ever been out at night at a wedding? Or maybe just out to dinner, and you're fumbling around for your makeup in the restroom? Happens all the time. I found a solution for you, a way that you can carry a gorgeous clutch and have your makeup laid out all in a row when you open that clutch, held magnetically in place. It's called Face in a Case by facesbeautiful.com, a clutch that doubles as a makeup case and holds your makeup in place magnetically with a wallet on the other side of the clutch. facesbeautiful.com. You won't be scrambling for your makeup in your bag. Like I said, one side is magnetic to hold in all of the vegan-free cosmetics from Faces Beautiful, which includes eyeshadow, brushes, bronzer, lip gloss, and mascara. And the other side holds your money and credit cards. Brilliant. Check it out at facesbeautiful.com. Okay, a little bit about your hosts this evening. I'm Judy Goss, and besides this awesome radio show, I'm a TV host, a regular contributor on NBC and Fox, an entrepreneur. I founded the nationally acclaimed What Women Want networking group 5 years ago. Can't believe it. We've got 20 chapters around the country. I'm a St. Martin's Press author and a freelance writer for New York Lifestyles magazine. And the most important job of all, I'm the mama of twin girls who are now almost 13 years old. Wow. And the wife of a husband who doesn't know what to do with 3 hormonal chicks in the household, but he seems to stay pretty calm through it all. God bless him. And my other host, now I stopped saying co-host because she can very well do this show by herself, and she has, and I just adore her. Kristin West is an award-winning actress and producer. She is a winner of the Best Actress Award for the film Seeking Valentina. Kristin was nominated for Best Actress and the Mary Austin Award for Female Producers. She won the Indie Spirit Award recently, and at the Idlewild International Film Festival. Okay, the Indie Spirit Award at the Idlewild, that's a tongue twister, International Film Festival. Wow. Hey, Kristin, I'm so happy about all that you're doing. What's the scoop on this new film that you mentioned a few weeks ago? Can you talk about it yet?
I can a little. I'm very excited to actually have this show tonight because we are talking about finances. So we're at the budgeting stage of the film, which is exciting. So we're going to learn about budgeting tonight, so I'm going to use that to apply it to my film projects.
I love it. And you know what? Everybody could use advice about money. As far as anyone that I've ever met can use advice about money, whether it's, mental blocks, which Monica's going to be talking about, or it's, advice for saving and what to do, after you've made that money. So, we can apply all of what we're going to be talking about this evening. I have a fun announcement. What Women Want networking. Oh, my sound engineer has given me a message that someone has their browser open. I think it's a guest, and I think it's interfering a little bit with the reception. So if anyone has their browsers open that's on the line, if you could close them, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, and thank you, Dina, my sound engineer. She's pretty awesome. Okay, my fun announcement. What Women Want Networking is hosting our first national convention in Atlanta, Georgia this year. It'll be October 7th through 8th, and we just got our first VIP sponsor, womenforone.com. I'm loving it. We will have more info about how you can get tickets. This is going to be an epic event for women. It's actually, I'm going to say, the first Lifestyles Women's Conference, I believe. My philosophy has always been about the well-rounded woman. That balance and peace comes in learning everything about ourselves, everything, not just business, health, or spirituality, but all of it. And tonight's show is Money on Our Minds, so we can spread the word of how to be more financially set, whether you want to make more or save more. And our first guest has that ability to increase your bottom line. She says by twice, maybe even 3 times as much as you're making now. And I've actually met people she's done it for. So let's bring on Monica Shah. Monica Shah, the $1 Million money and marketing expert, Kellogg MBA grad, and business professor, helps business owners double their income within 12 to 18 months. She is passionate about helping them monetize their businesses to create their dream lifestyles. She's the author of Getting Rich, You're Doing It Backwards. All right. When Monica isn't eating a great New York City meal, watching her favorite fantasy series, or people watching, she teaches business owners the how, every step of the process to grow their businesses to the next level without going broke or crazy in the process. Okay, Monica, you must be busy with all the people who need to make more cash. Isn't that pretty much everyone on the entire planet?
Absolutely. There's nobody that says, normally we could all use a little extra money because we could all use a little extra fun.
Exactly. And I was still, I just got another message in from the sound engineer. If anyone that's on the radio show right now has a browser open, if you could please close it, because we're getting a little bit of some kind of interception here with the reception. So I just got another message. Hopefully that'll help it. Okay. So first of all, thank you for becoming a business member for What Women Want Networking. We're very proud and excited and thrilled to have you, as part of our family. And I want to talk first, although I'm excited to hear about that title of your book. Oh my gosh, Getting Rich and Doing It Backwards. I love it. I want to hear about Revenue Breakthrough. You're having an event this Saturday in Atlanta, right? What is it and what is the event about? And tell me all of it.
Sure. Yes, we are having an event on Saturday. It's called Women, Entrepreneurial Leadership, and Money. And it is at the Le Méridien Hotel in the perimeter area. And it's all about the fact that as women, we carry such a brunt in terms of like being mothers and caretakers and sisters and also having jobs. And there's this place where a lot of us have all these responsibilities but don't necessarily have a place to talk about them. It's also, and so what I've come, and there's also this place around women stepping into being leaders at home, leaders at work, leaders in their businesses, leaders to their friends and to their families. And it's a little bit hard to have all 3 roles, to be generating money, to be becoming leaders, and to still be feminine and allow ourselves to receive. So what we're going to be talking about at the event is I'm going to be teaching the 5 levels of leadership, how we can make more money, and how we can easily manage all of our roles as women, as caretakers, as workers, as business owners, and be able to have balance around all of it and find more grace and ease in making money in the process.
The B word, balance. So hard to find, right?
I know.
Why are women why is it so hard for them to receive? Why is it so hard for them to think they deserve, to get paid more, to make more?
A lot of it comes from the fact that we were never really taught to talk about money. In fact, when we were younger, like when you're young, you literally you get in trouble if you ask too much about money, right? So if you were to talk about money at the dinner table, you might get your hand slapped. And so what's interesting is that then as we get older and money becomes more of a responsibility, whether you're working for somebody else or whether you have your own company, you're expected to look at numbers all day long. You're expected to talk about it, and you're expected to ask for money on a regular basis if you're doing sales conversations or if you're trying to get clients or sell products. And the truth is, we never learn the skills to be able to do that. And part of receiving more money, is being able to ask for more money. And without the skills to be able to even look at the money, it's a very difficult thing for most of us to do. And it's just something that it was skipped over in terms of learning how to do that.
That's for sure. The past generations were very different. They had such different thoughts about money. Now, you are you specialize in finding people's money blocks, right? And getting them through that, getting them over it, getting rid of them. My question is how can you get rid of this type of thing that you can't see, you can't feel, and you don't really know it's there?
Yeah, I think you start with a series of questions, Judy. So almost everything that we know about money and how we relate to money is based on the fact that from the ages of 0 to 7, when you're in that time period of 0 to 7, you're like a sponge. And everything that you hear, see, or experience around money, you take in, and it becomes a fact to you. And then all of your beliefs and habits and behaviors around money are created from those experiences. So then as you get older, if you find yourself perpetually saving money because you're afraid that you're going to run out, or if you find yourself overspending in certain areas, most of it can be tracked back to what I like to call a money story or a money experience, which is everything that you saw, heard, or experienced money when you were growing up. So a good place to start on this is to ask yourself the question, what was said about money when you were growing up? Like, what did your parents, your family, your community say about money when you were growing up? And how was money experienced when you were growing up? One of my clients, her family, they never spent any money on anything that wasn't essential when she was growing up. They only spent money on necessities like clothing and food. And so in her mind, that created a money story. And that money story was, I can only spend money on necessary things. And people in general can only spend money on necessary things. And she's an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, and a nutritionist, and when she came to me, she had been chronically undercharging for everything that she did and was having trouble making ends meet. And what happened was we took that belief that she had in her head and we actually shifted it to every dollar. So we created a new statement, what I call a money statement. And the new money statement was, every dollar I charge is worth every penny because is worth my value because I save lives every day. And she started to repeat that to herself.
It sounds like at least half of what you do or teach or bring out of people is spiritual based.
Yeah, it's definitely based in beliefs.
And I'm kind of cheating because I read your website and about your about what you study and what you believe in. But go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. It is spiritual based. I mean, I think it's a combination of really owning the spiritual piece of faith and trust, and also owning where beliefs come from and really sort of starting to work through them.
In combination of looking at the numbers in the Excel sheets and making people really sit down and grasp what's reality, right?
Absolutely. One of the exercises that I think is so important is just a simple tracking of your revenue, like looking at your numbers every single day as they come in and tracking them. So it's this combination of owning your beliefs, knowing where they came from, clearing them and creating new beliefs, and then using that clearing to be able to put yourself into action to look at your numbers and do the right activities that are actually going to generate money.
Well, I can imagine one of your workshops is so powerful because through what I've just been reading and hearing and seeing about what you teach, it's actually already helping me. And I do know people that you've helped also through this. So it's very exciting to hear this and to be able to apply it, to your own life, because I really do believe that this is kind of like a missing link, with people and how they make money. Now, we're going to get to your book in a minute, Getting Rich, You're Doing It Backwards. I'm so curious to hear about that. But I know Kristin has a question in there somewhere.
I do. Monica, I was looking over your website and I saw that you had an interesting thought. Money loves attention. Why is that?
Because what we focus on grows. And what happens for a lot of us is that we're not actually looking at our bank accounts on a regular basis. We kind of avoid it, or we avoid looking at the credit card statements. And what I have found is that by actually looking at your money regularly, and it's not just money, it's your numbers, right? So looking at how much revenue you're bringing in. If you're a business owner, looking at your conversion rates or your marketing numbers, looking at what's working in your business numerically and what's not on a regular basis gives you clarity. And from that clarity, you can either continue doing the things that are working or discontinue the things that aren't working. And the more you do that, the more money is attracted to you. And it's just this piece around money loves attention. It loves to be looked at.
That's really interesting, especially the things you do focus on do grow in your life. If you have negative self-talk about money, say you resent paying your bills or you dread the first or the last day of the month, what is the first step a woman can take to reprogramming herself to not dread that? Is it a more of a gratitude-based approach, or is there a way to start not fearing and resenting financial matters?
There's two steps. The first step is answer the question, what was money like for you growing up? And I would just suggest you write that on the top of a piece of paper and start writing about it. And about most of the time when you write about it, you're going to start to see the connection of why you might resent money, why you might resent looking at it at the first and the end of the month from a belief perspective.
Oh gosh, that's so true.
Connecting it back to maybe what happened when you were a child around money or where your fears are coming from. So that would be step one. And that's sort of the belief part of it. And then step two is the practical part of it and the action steps that I also teach. So step two would be to look at your numbers and ask yourself, really, where are you coming under each month in terms of your bills? Because my guess is that you're maybe not making enough money. So every time you have to pay your bills or looking at your numbers at the first and the last of the month, you're thinking there's never enough, there's never enough, there's never enough. And start to ask yourself, how could there be more? If you're working a day job, could you start to think about how you can generate more money at that day job? If you are running a company, could you start to think about how you're going to generate more clients or get more business? Could you get some support and assistance around what's next for you to generate more money so that you can stop resenting that first and last day of the month?
Getting it rich, you're doing it backwards. What are we doing backwards?
The key piece that most of us are doing backwards is we're not doing activities that actually generate money. So every day, if you're a business owner or if you work for somebody else, you sit down, usually you make a checklist of things that need to get done. And the checklist for most of us have every item on that checklist has equal weight. But what we don't realize is out of 10 things on that checklist, about 3 of them are going to generate revenue for you or for your company that you're working for. So if you did those 3 things first, every single day, revenue would increase. And so examples of those revenue generating activities are things like if you are a business owner, things like doing sales conversations or following up with people that could buy your products or services, or going to events like What Women Want or other networking events where you can meet partners and build relationships with people that could lead you to new clients, or doing speaking events or sponsorships that could lead you to new clients. But in a lot of cases, we tend to do the things every day that are easiest, or most fulfilling, or quickest for us to do.
Or just to get us through the day.
And they're often things that don't generate money, like resizing pictures on our website or taking 5 hours to write a blog post. And part of it is just that we just don't always realize that the things that are going to generate money the fastest are the things that we should be doing first. Because when we generate more money, we can then get more support to get everything done on our to-do list.
So tell me about the event on Saturday in Atlanta. So this must be really motivating, because not only are you teaching them all of these things that you're telling us, and I'm sure expanding it also, but I'm sure the people in the room must just motivate each other just with the energy and the inspiration, right, that they have between each other.
Absolutely. What's so interesting about talking about money and talking about leadership is that when you get 50, 100 people in a room together and we're all talking about it, you have these kinds of breakthroughs that you can't have when you're trying to figure this out alone. Because this is a topic that when people connect, all of a sudden the breakthroughs and the experiences and the thoughts that come out of it are magnified, because there's a safety in being able to talk about something that is so important, yet it's something that is a bit of a taboo, and we don't talk about it often. So
right, and everyone's there to learn, so they feel like they're all in the same boat, right?
Exactly. And the connections and the conversations that are had there are just so powerful. I mean, I've watched people walk in and out of these rooms and make relationships and partnerships in their businesses and in their lives that then, 2-3 years later, they're still supporting one another. And it's because of what they're learning and because of the ability for them to talk about some really important topics in their businesses and in their lives.
Kristin.
It's interesting because I have a really good friend who says your net worth is in proportion to your network, and it's not who you know, but who knows you. A very important person in my life said that, and it's how many. Obviously, more connection is better, and we live in a more connected world. But is there a benchmark for being connected that we need to follow? How many friends should I have? How many of them should be real people? How many of them should be on Facebook? What's that benchmark of connection that we need to strive for?
I'm not sure that there is a number, Kristin, because I think everybody's different. However, what I do think is important is that if you're clear about what your goals are, where you want to go, both in your personal life and in your business, that you're not doing it alone, because it's impossible to do alone. And so I like to say that connection is currency. And what that means is that having, when you're looking at what your benchmarks are, it's not about the numbers. It's about, do you have the people around you that are going to support you to help you move forward when it comes to your health goals? Or do you have the people around you that are going to help you to move forward when it comes to your finance goals, that are going to connect you to the right people when it comes to your business goals? And that's really the benchmark, is, am I trying to do everything by myself so I'm exhausted every night, or do I have people to reach out to when I have a question and to get answers from? And that's why I love doing these live events, is because it creates a community of women. And for so many of us, we're lonely a lot of the time, and we need more really good, like-minded people in our lives.
Well, I also heard that you have a jaw-dropping presentation. So, it's just, I'm excited next time you have one in New York. I would love to come see you, because I'm just so excited about the whole thing. Now, how can people sign up for this? Where do they go to get more information? Tell us, how they can hook up with you.
Yeah. So to go to this event, the URL is, you can go to revenuebreakthrough.com/guest, revenuebreakthrough.com/guest. And that's where you can get more information on the event, register for the event. And I do want to encourage And I do want to say, Judy, that I'd love your listeners to be able to come as our guests to the event. So once they go to that link, they'll be able to get a complimentary ticket to the event. And I'm so excited to be able to do the event, meet new people, and help people really learn about leadership and money.
Absolutely. If anyone's in the Atlanta area, you should really try to attend this event. I've met several people that Monica has helped. And like I said, Monica, you and I haven't worked, I'm not your client, but just from reading and listening to you and taking what I've seen so far, I'm just learning so much already. So I can imagine if somebody attends an event that it would just be multiplied, beyond. So that is just terrific. Revenue breakthrough. I love that too, because I feel like, we have these so-called money blocks, and it's just, we need people like you to try to kind of pull them out and figure it out and get them laid out on the table. I mean, it's really tough if you don't really know, you don't have a guide, right, to lead you through it.
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started my business, I was $25,000 in debt within the first 12 months. And so it was hard to figure out what to do first, second, and third. And when I finally figured it out and was able to repeat it, I was able to build my company. And I think it's very difficult to know how to build and generate more money if you don't have a guide along the way to do it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom and knowledge about all of this. And good luck with the event. I know it's going to be spectacular. And again, if you want to, get a complimentary ticket, revenuebreakthrough.com/guest. And Monica, thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Judy. It was so fun, and I so appreciate all that you're doing for women out there as well.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'd love to have you back anytime on the show.
Well, I am so glad.
Great.
Thank you, Monica. I am so glad that Monica came on and has really given us some insights about how to train our brains to think about money and prosperity and financial matters differently. It's so exciting to have someone who has a fresh perspective on finances. And once we generate that revenue and we get that money in the bank and we charge what we need to charge for our myriad of services, Ronit Rogoszinski is the woman to call to help us know what to do with our money after we've made it. Ronit is a financial advisor who works primarily with women who, whether they chose to or not, whether they plan to or not, find themselves in charge of a household's finances and recognize that they need to work with someone who will look at their entire financial picture and guide them into mapping out how to move forward from this point of their life. And since Ronit is part of an industry that is heavily regulated, we were asked to say that to determine which investment may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. And Ronit, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, Ronit, I want to interject with a personal thank you. Kristin, Ronit's been a member of What Women Want Networking, which is formerly over 40 females. She's been on our speakers board for 3 years, so I'm just very, very grateful. And I don't mean to interrupt your what you were saying, but Ronit, we're very thankful to have you as a member.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be part of this team, this group.
Well, Ronit, I'm so excited to have you on, and thank you so much for all of your support of Judy and her endeavors. And what I would like to know to start off is, how did you get into this career as a financial advisor? How did you get into this world?
Well, it's very interesting. I actually started fresh out of school on the banking side. And way back then, I'm going to date myself here, but in 1988, when I started, financial advisors were really not available to the general public. It was really something that the private banking did for the high net worth clients. And at the bank that I was working at the time, there was a program to start to make financial advisors available to the bank client to really help them diversify their portfolios from just cash positions. And I just thought it was an amazing opportunity. I thought it was very interesting. I actually knew almost nothing about it, and so I raised my hand and had to go through a series of exams and testing and licensing, and then went into a pretty rigorous program of training. And now I think I figured it out the other day. I think it's almost 26 years or 28 years that I'm on this side of the fence of investments. Still surprised and shocked that I'm in the financial service industry for almost 30 years at this point. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to work with people on this side of the fence, so to speak.
Well, you sound like you love what you do, and you also sound great at it, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you this evening. Now, in all of those decades of experience you have, what do you feel is the single habit women need to make to improve their financial outlook?
I think the biggest thing that women need to do is just to start to get involved as early on as possible. I think a lot of women, like you read in my describing who I work with, a lot of women suddenly find themselves in charge of the household's finances, and then realize that they need to get engaged. And my feeling is the sooner you can start to balance your own checkbook, which I know doesn't really exist anymore in our day of technology, but it's the earlier on that you can start to manage and get involved in managing your own money, in learning about borrowing and what the cost of borrowing is. What does it mean to live within your means versus above your means? What does it mean to actually look and see, are your assets growing versus your liabilities growing? Those types of buzzwords, those types of concepts, the earlier on you can start to engage in them and learn about them, the better off you are. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen is women come to deal with money really later on in life, not by choice, but by situation. And I think that's very intimidating when it really doesn't need to be.
It's interesting because for decades, most women make the major purchasing decisions in the household. That's proven out study after study. Week after week, you're buying the groceries. You know what you're spending, but women don't necessarily always have the opportunity to see the overall picture of it. What do you feel in terms of should paying down debt be a woman's first priority? Saving? What should be a woman's first financial priority if things are out of control or not working?
That's a great question.
Well, I think that the first thing when you get that sense of I'm not in control of the situation, is stop and take a look and see where you really are, because I think reality and perception may not necessarily be the same thing. So I always encourage people to say, when you're in that moment where you really aren't sure of what's going on, take a step back and take a temperature check. Almost do the same way that you would go to the doctor and get a physical, do a financial physical on your household's finances. And what that means is that you need to understand where you are right now. And the best way to understand where you are right now, again, reality versus fiction versus what you think you have, is to understand 4 numbers. You need to understand what it is that you own, your assets. What is it that has your name on it, that you can take possession of it, sell it, and turn it into cash? So what are your assets really? What are they really? What are your liabilities? What do you really owe other people or other institutions? Because the difference between your assets and your liabilities is what gives you your net worth. You then need to understand what is the income that's coming into the household and what are the expenses. And I know Monica spoke about that before. You're really understanding where, the revenue or your income that's coming in. But I would say also add to that, understand where you're spending your money on, because that's your cash flow. And as soon as you can get a handle on these 4 lists, on these 4 bottom line numbers, now you can really get a very very clear picture of where you are versus thinking just how much out of control I am. So when you say that women, make the decisions on major purchases or even paying the bills, that's usually on the expense side. But very few women, from what I've seen, then also have just as good a handle on what's the real income that's coming in. Is there a shortfall every month, or is there a surplus? And if there is a shortfall, where can we make adjustments? But if there's a surplus, now what can we do? Do we bring down liabilities? Do we bring down, debt? Or do we try to buy something that's going to generate additional income?
Ronit, you sound like you have to be a bit of a psychologist sometimes, too.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, I always laugh and I say, when I have a meeting with somebody, it's usually, 5 to 10 minutes on the numbers and then, 50 minutes on life. So, yes, definitely psychology comes into that quite a bit.
That's fascinating. Ronit, I want to get into the discussion of liabilities more, because as we progress through life, we accumulate debt. And one thing that's coming up is tax day, April 15th. Now, obviously, it might be a little late to get everything for 2016 on track. But what should women be doing the day after tax day to get 2017 on track?
Well, I think the first thing would be to just what I said right now. Get a list of those four. Get the 4 lists in place, because if, let's say, you do get back a tax refund, if you now know what your numbers look like, let's just say you've just listed 4 credit cards in addition to, a student loan that you've just listed on the liability side. And let's say 3 out of those credit cards are, let's say, at that 0 interest rate, because you've done all the movement of money and you've transferred balances and you've consolidated things. But there is, let's say, a student loan at 6.5% and a credit card loan at, 12%. Well, why not take some of that tax refund and take a look to see maybe you can apply an additional payment or spread it over, to bring down those debts down sooner rather than later. Maybe, it's just making an extra payment on your mortgage that year, and then eventually in the long term, again, cutting back your interest payments. So, understanding where you are right now should flag for you something that could be addressed, sooner rather than later. And I think now, especially after the tax season, if we are lucky, or if we done our math in the sense that we can get some refund back, that's a great time to take a look and see where you can funnel that money. Maybe it's just to add it to your emergency cash, because you haven't built that number high enough. And now when you've done your lists and your assets, and you can see that, oh my goodness, I haven't even made a contribution to my retirement account for the last couple of years. So knowing where you are right now, having those 4 lists in place really gives light to the shortfalls. But I think it also highlights some of the things that you have done well, that you should celebrate and should tap yourself on the back for doing a good job. So it's not just all for the negative. Sometimes those lists really do highlight some of the positive and some of the good things that you've done along the way.
I'm glad that you brought up credit card debt versus mortgage debt and student loan debt. Obviously, as we're in a changing political climate, we're also talking about interest rates. And interest rates have been stagnant for a while, as far as I can understand. What is your outlook on interest rates, and what should women know about them, especially when it comes to major purchases like buying a house, buying cars, things of that nature?
Well, the interest rate was increased by, 0.25% today. It's in the near future, it's not going to really affect the interest rates that we're used to seeing dramatically. We might see a slight uptick in the interest rate that is being charged on new mortgages, on new lines of credit, things like that. But nothing that's going to suddenly make it unaffordable overnight. What it might do is hopefully spur some people that have been, deferring buying that first home, or maybe, putting off that refinance. Maybe it'll spur them to move that up and do that sooner rather than later. But look, interest rates is the cost of money, and so as interest rates go up, the cost of money is going to change. And I think that understanding your personal financial picture, again, will really shed light as to what and where you should move. Without trying to change the universe, but really just try to change your own financial picture by understanding where you are. What are some of the things you need to work on now? What are some of the things that are working well that you should continue? So I wouldn't, overly panic because interest rates might start to move, but I would definitely, recommend to always be engaged. And whether you're running portfolios or not, it's always a good time to start. And I would think now it may be just as good a time to start than is any other.
I think you and Monica are both alluding to the need for women to make priorities when it comes to money and to establish very clear, well-defined goals while knowing where you are in the world of money. What I wanted to ask you is, for you, what is a good investment? Snapchat just had its IPO and everybody was wild and crazy over that. What should you look for in a good investment? What is your criteria?
Well, it's interesting just because obviously a good investment for one person could be a terrible investment for someone else. It really does come down to what's appropriate.
That's why we need people like you, Ronit.
Well, but I always allude to the fact that, look, a box of Oreos is a box of Oreos, but if a diabetic eats it and has no access to insulin, it could be deadly. But, an athlete that just came off a 5-hour workout, a box of Oreos is nothing. I think investments are the same. A stock, a fund, an ETF, a bond. They are just tools. It all depends on, they can only be appropriate or inappropriate within a portfolio. So what I always recommend for somebody is to understand why are they looking at investments. If it's to, build a retirement account in 25 years, that's going to be a very different objective and a very different strategy and a very different plan than someone who says, look, I'm saving for a down payment on a house that I hope to buy in the next 2 years. The time frame makes a huge difference in the kind of portfolio that you can put together. So obviously the longer time frame you have, the more risk you can assume. But again, that depends on your age. It depends on your, what you can tolerate. Just because I have 25 years doesn't mean that I can, go off the charts with risk. If I'm somebody who's afraid, to cross the street, without looking back and forth 100 times, it really, putting together a portfolio has to make sense within the context of the person and where they are and where they want to be. And I think that's when, whenever you sit down with an advisor or, somebody like myself and say, okay, I inherited $100,000. What should I do with, what should I do with it? The last thing you want to really discuss is the portfolio. I think you first want to understand how does this fit into your overall picture, and what is, what else is there that we might need to address first. And if everything is perfectly fine, and that $100,000 can be put away for retirement, for a house, for college, for just regular investments to be dipped into over time, now we can talk about investments. Now we can talk about strategy. So again, I think it's so personal, and it's so important to understand that it's not about the hottest stock. It's about making sure that investment makes sense for your financial picture.
Everybody is different, and where you are at in life does influence the decisions you make. Someone who's 30 is not going to have the same priorities as someone who's 40 or 50. What do you feel is an ideal financial setup? Should you have an emergency fund? How much of your of a year's salary should be in savings? What are the basics? What are the basic building blocks you think people need to prosper?
Well, I think the first building block is to make sure that your cash flow is positive. So if if you're living within your means, maybe even below your means, right there, you're already winning the game. Because if you're living, above your means, there's no way for you to be able to save or to invest or to even go and buy additional assets, even take on some additional liability. But if it can generate income for you, that's great. So first thing I would say is make sure you understand where how much you need to spend in order to still be able to funnel money into your own personal investment strategy. So yes, first and foremost, you should absolutely have an emergency fund. The benchmark is usually 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses, of your must-pay expenses. That to me should be the sort of the first thing that you focus on. If you have a family, make sure that you're protected, that if your income is lost, whether it's disability or God forbid a death, that you take some precautions to make sure that your income can be replaced at least for the next 10 to 15 years, depending on how much debt you have or how old your kids are. Then I would say is start saving for retirement before you start saving for college or before you start saving for that extra vacation fund. In this country, we can pretty much finance almost everything, but it's almost impossible to finance retirement. So the sooner you can start putting money away towards that goal, the better off you will be down the road, even though it seems so 30, 40 years down the road. Why would I start that today? The sooner you can, the better off.
Ronit. You can finance almost anything, but you can almost never finance retirement. I think people really need to know that.
Yeah, because look, let's face it, when we're, at that age where we need help or we need, we're slowing down because of age or we need, additional help, most of us are really not going to turn to our kids and say, okay, that $1 million I spent on educating you, I want that back now. We're not going to say that to them. So we need to make sure that if
you're not me. I might just try that.
I have 4 kids. Let me tell you, it's not coming back. But no, with pleasure. But no, it's important to understand the realities of some of the things that are just not going to come back, and you need to make sure that if you want to maintain your independence, if you want to maintain your lifestyle, you need to make some sacrifices, and they don't have to be life-changing. They don't have to be life-changing. It doesn't mean that you'll never eat out again. But you can really make small adjustments or set up small payments. I call it the drip program. If you leave, a tap slightly on and put a bucket under it and go away for a weekend, you could come back and that bucket could be overflowing. But if you stand there and watch the drops come down, it'll look like, it's once in a blue moon. If you can drip money into your retirement bucket, into your emergency fund bucket, into your, next year's Christmas vacation, whatever it is, but it's consistently done with dollars that, don't seem significant on the surface, but accumulate to be very significant. I think that's one of the easiest ways to really get some programs for yourself in place without feeling like I can never go and spend another dime, again. So to me, that's the easiest way to get those done.
And it sounds like the most important and the most overlooked from what you're saying. Ronit, we're running out of time, but, you are just so fascinating with everything that you know and you've learned from, you say decades, I don't believe it, but decades of experience. And how can we get a hold of you for, more information, more advice? Where should we point our listeners?
Well, you can visit me on my website, which is womenandwealthsolutions.com. It's WOMENAWS.com. You can call me. I'm in the office, 516-596-8581. Or you can feel free to email me at ronit@womenaws.com anytime. I usually, if not by the end of the day, then by the next morning, get back to you with any question. And quite honestly, there's no question that's a bad question. So if anything comes up that you want to discuss, I'm more than happy to get you the answer. And if I don't know it, I will find you the answer or the person that can get you that answer, right away.
I love that, and we've learned so much tonight. Thank you so much, Kristin. We've had amazing guests on, right, this evening, such different perspectives of finance, but still learning just so much that I never knew before.
I know, and now I'm not dreading April 15th. I'm not dreading the end of the month. So I feel like this has been a really empowering conversation for women who make so many financial decisions and don't always know what to do. And I'm so glad, and I hope that people join us next week when we bring on more awesome guests. It's all here on LA Talk Radio, or go to whatwomenwantradio.com for more information. Thank you so much, Ronit and Monica, for coming on the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and have a wonderful night.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss, only on LA Talk Radio.